Okay. I do think we are live. Okay. Call to order, as they say. Thanks for everybody for being here. I think people are starting to figure out we're starting at 11 and not 11:30 anymore. So that's fantastic. Today's going to be our pre-convention edition. So we'll talk about the convention, let everybody know what's kind of going on with that. If you're here in Greenville, we sent out the email this morning to the delegates and alternates, kind of giving them the information and all that type of stuff. I will tell you, we normally like to highly encourage everybody to come. And we do encourage everybody statewide to come because there's a lot of counties that their alternates, they may have Rhino establishment delegates, but their alternates are there. So those alternates need to come and get moved up. What we did here in Greenville is we elected a slate of essentially 180 MAGA America First people. So, as long as 90 show up, we're happy. So it makes it a little bit easier for us. But for other counties, it's important for everybody to kind of show up. So we're encouraging everyone. But I will tell you, even here in Greenville, and I know some of our Greenville people can't come, and we talked to a friend on the way over here, actually my EC from my precinct, and she volunteered not to come on the bus because she was like, oh, it's at 7:15 versus 7:30. She's like, that's even earlier for my husband to take me and drop me off at McAllister Square. And we accepted her and gave her a permission slip because we actually oversold the bus by 2 tickets. So, now only one person has to sit on somebody else's lap. So, or my lap, or Olga has to sit on my lap, but we'll see. But just so you know, we're all excited about it. There's been a whole lot of work this week on the convention. A lot of people calling, trying to what it's called whipping up votes. And I don't know if anybody in Greenville has gotten a call from Drew McKissick. Has anybody? No, not one person. So
the other day and said, am I going to vote? And I said, well, I'm a delegate. He said, yeah, see here, it says you're a delegate. I said, you're getting ready for Drew McKissick, Yeah.
Really? So you did get a phone call? Wow. Okay. Yeah. They may not have known your name to kind of figure out. You're like, oh, well, maybe somebody that is a Drew supporter slipped in. So it's good to know that they think you're a Rhino. And I tell people, you can either tell them, heck no, I'm not voting for Drew, or you can tell them, yes, I'm voting for Drew. You're really not. It's all a crazy game because realize, the only people that are voting are delegates and alternates, with one exception. There is the possibility, and this is important for other smaller counties to realize, if a county does not show up all its delegates and alternates, they will let people off the street from that county, and in theory, that participated in or came to welcome. Lawyers, they think they can do everything. But they will let people off the street, from the county, and in theory, we went to the convention. It's a common practice that they have used in the past. And I'm checking to see. A friend of mine told me it might actually be in the rules somewhere. I don't think I've actually seen it. But imagine you're from small county, say Allendale, or say Orangeburg, and all the delegates, or say Jasper. Jasper's like way down there. It's a long drive to get to Columbia, and all the delegates and alternates don't show up. But guess what? If they don't, and if somebody from Jasper that happens to be MAGA America First shows up and says, well, I would like to take their spot. I went to the convention and, I understand there's a customary rule to let me in. That person could get let in and vote. I will tell you, in 2017 was the first time I went to a state convention, and I was just going to kind of learn. We had just moved up here to Greenville, and 2017 was the first ReOrg I participated in. But, back in those days, the numbers change every 10 years with the census. So we have 90 delegates now, but we had, I think, maybe 75 or 77, somewhere in the mid 70s. And I just went. I was an alternate. I don't know how I got on the list. It was a different voting. Nobody knew who I was. That's how I got on their list, even being an alternate. But I went, and guess what? I got moved up to vote. And I got moved up to vote. And I think even when we voted, we only had like about 55 or so people there. So I'm kind of like, why is there only, 55 people? That's why I want everybody to know, being a delegate, being an alternate is not necessarily the way it used to be, which was a popularity contest. You know, they pass it out, people check the box. Oh, these are all the people I know. Being an alternate or a delegate is a responsibility. We need you to come. We need you to show up. Greenville needs to show up a complement of 90 people that will vote against Drew McKissick. You know, everybody's got their own vote, and you know, you can do what you like. But
110 registered. So
right.
we'll
Yeah. So,
from Greenville.
and I know there's other people that aren't, I think, known on the registration list that'll show. But I even encourage people that aren't, maybe won't get moved up to come and see it. And especially people that have never seen this before, because you will be shocked and amazed. We, Greenville, have a very open convention. We let guests come, we'll live stream it. We want anybody to see and enjoy it and kind of learn from the process, because we believe in having a bigger the party. You know, we want more people involved in the party and involved in politics and out there voting and all that type of stuff. But they don't want anybody to see what they're doing. They don't want them to see the ramrodding that's going to go through. They don't. Politicians, especially, are the people that they will usually, in the old days, would get up there to be the temporary president and permanent president and those types of things. And even politicians were saying, there's no way in heck I would do that, because you're now asking me to ramrod it on these people, and they are going to come after me. Brandon Newton did it one year. Tommy Pope did it in one of the original years, you know, a few years back. You know, those guys are trying to stay as far away from this as possible, because they don't want our ire. And our ire is because, you know, they're cheating. They're forcing through, you know, improper. They're not playing a fair game, and they're not playing a fair game, which we all know. Which is why I preach, and Donald Trump has obviously preached, you know, too big to rig. We have to make our precinct reorg and county conventions and ultimately the state convention too big to rig, in the sense that we need to show up 75% of the people. If you got 3 people on one side and 1 person on the other side, I don't care what they do, how they cheat, you know, they can't beat us, because it is so outnumbering, and you will literally probably have a riot on your hands. You know, yes, the optics is, you know, and they will structure things. I don't know, you know, how many people have been to a convention?
Yeah.
Okay.
In New York.
Oh, New York? I would love to know how a New York convention goes. How big was it in New York?
Big was when Lee Zeldin got nominated for governor.
Oh, really? Okay. So do you remember how many delegates or how many people were there? So it was like a Coliseum type thing?
It was pretty big, but yeah, there was a lot of people. Yeah, it was big. It was big. It was a nice hotel too.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I'd love to find out some more about it. But this gentleman here that went to a convention in New York talked about how the fact that it was when Lee Zeldin was nominated for governor up there. He's now our second EPA. I think he's
EPA, yes.
Yeah. Actually, one of our folks, he interned for her in Congress, I think, a long time ago. So he was actually one of the people we reached out to come speak at our inaugural gala. So, and I think he had to be in DC that day. So, but yeah, that's great.
How many delegates are
There's 943 total for the state. Greenville has 90. We have 90, and we will certainly, as Olga said, there's at least 110 that are registered as of Wednesday. So we the more the better. You know, we have 180 people that can go. So, you know, the more the better that can come. I think what's going to be interesting is, I think even if, you know, some of those alternates don't come, I think we may be able to use that, you know, customary rule to be able to move somebody up into an alternate spot. So for some reason, Tommy was left off the list for our slate, and so Tommy is coming with us. And then Tommy can hopefully, you know, move in. At least he probably won't move all the way up to vote, because we definitely have 90 people voting. But at least he'll be able to move up to being an alternate and actually get in the convention and watch the ramrodding in what the establishment does.
David is watching, and he wants everyone to wave at him.
David, glad you're watching. And I hear David's looking for a new car. He got his money back for his old car. So, you know, when you go out and buy a brand new car and you got problems after problems after problems, you know, they finally, I think, gave up on David and said, "Here, take all your money. Please go somewhere else and get a different brand." Yes.
If somebody wanted to go that is not even an alternate, could they go? And do they just register at?
You can register.
You have to sit with me in the back hallway, because
Well,
Yeah.
Well, and even in your situation, I think you may be able to be moved into an alternate spot.
You know,
Why
that
not? You should be able to.
You can move in.
Yeah.
So you just
So that'll be
have to
funny.
say, hey, I want to be, I'm an alternate for Greenville.
Yes, yeah. So I think, and I think that's what we're going to do with Tommy. That's what I think ultimately we'll do with Olga. I will tell you, they particularly don't want her in the building. They have, they actually created the rule that for the RNC, they allow people that are RNC delegates and alternates to bring a guest. So of course, my wife would be my guest. Well, she got her citizenship in June, right? So no, wait a second. Oh, but that was past the deadline to sign up. But what they added a new rule that has not been in any state before is that, to be a guest of a delegate or alternate, you have to be a U.S. citizen.
No, registered.
A registered voter, which is essentially a U.S. citizen. at least in our, everybody laughed at that. But I said, oh yes, my green card holding wife is a registered voter. That yeah. That's true. In other states, it doesn't matter. But they actually, said that she couldn't. Essentially, it was targeted. Obviously, she'd be the only person that would fit into that particular circumstance. And by the time she got her citizenship on June 23rd, if I'm right, it had passed the deadline to add a guest. So it's quite interesting. But are you saying?
He's first time, right?
First time here.
First time here.
Oh,
This is
fantastic.
OU precinct president.
Wow! Congratulations.
And he would really like to go to the convention. I want him to be there so he can experience.
Yes, I would highly encourage you to come. Please do come. What we will do is what we're going to do with Tommy, Olga, and yourself is we're going to say, hey, we don't have our full complement of alternates. These people came to convention. They received a vote, and we would like them to be moved up into into an alternate position. So I can't guarantee because there is rules for me, not for me. They change the rules. We call it in the legal community, we call it outcome-based, rule determination. So normally for her, we might get a different answer than we get for Tommy. So I mean that's the type of stuff. And for Greenville especially, they will probably sway. Oh well, that's but y'all have all your delegates, so that doesn't really matter. I'm like, well, wait a second. What if our delegates leave early? Then that's when our alternates move. So that's why we need you guys to fill in those open alternate spots. So I would highly encourage you to come. I would put odds on 99% that you'll get in, but I don't think they're gonna. In some instances, and the fact that they've just kind of left us alone in Greenville, they boycotted our ReOrg and let us do everything that way we want to do it and kind of the right way. But I mean, let us do they gave up on us, except for apparently they called one of our delegates to find out if she might be a true supporter. You cannot register online. The cutoff initially was Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Then they extended it. I think everybody made a complaint. Blah, blah, blah. They may have been intending to do this in the first place. Who knows? But they had not told us. I can assure you they had not told the state executive committee or the chairman or any of those people that, actually you can register there on site. It looked like, and everybody believed that it was like, oh my goodness, they're playing a trick and there's going to be a deadline. And they're telling all of their people there's a deadline and go ahead and register and registering. I mean, they control the system. We controlled our system. I wanted a lease on the system. At least I'm going to go ahead and pay for it. You pay for it, give me the money back later. We didn't even know. We didn't get a list of who had registered until 3:30 on Wednesday. So we were still scrambling it. But then they did also, I think later that day, they announced that they were going to extend it. So, but you can't register online anymore. So that shut down. But if you bring a credit card or a check, you can pay the $40 there. So, and do realize a lot of people here in Greenville got been confused about, I thought I registered for the convention, during ReOrg or whatnot. You may have registered for our convention. You may have paid the $15 delegate fee. That's in our rules. That's been there way before our time. That $15 delegate fee was just to have your name put in the nomination to be voted upon. So it has nothing to do with the $40 we give the state. We don't see a dime of it. We don't touch it.
It's that one.
The state party gets it. So, why it's $40? I don't know. I mean,
Why did they get it?
why do they get it? Because they're the state party and they get to determine it. So,
They set the price.
and they do set the price. And it's funny. I don't know why it's $40. I don't know why it'd be. I mean, 20 covers our convention. You would think 18,000 or whatever. Maybe not. I don't know. It's whatever. It is what it is, and that's what we deal with. So we pay the $40 and move on.
Drew?
Yes, sir.
Information, he was speaking down at Sumter, if you're aware of that.
Yesterday or
Uh,
yeah,
past days.
it's been interesting. If
So got some resolutions for us now, too.
a resolution for
Resolutions, but I have a PDF.
from the state party.
But then you were gonna propose something, I gotta figure that out.
Okay. Normally, what has happened in the past, obviously there's the elections tomorrow. They will elect chair, first vice chair, second and third, maybe fourth. I'll have to look back up. I don't remember exactly how many people are officially on that list to be voted on. The only ones I really care about, or that we should really care about, would be chair and first vice chair. And the reason we care about those two, the chair is obvious. The chair can call meetings, can do things, and kind of run and direct the party. But the first vice chair of the state party does get a vote on the state executive committee. So that's where we need people that vote. So in theory, if we win tomorrow, we would get the chair, say the first vice chair. So we would have 2 additional votes to the 12 that we have today. 12, maybe 13, that stuff. So, but I think there's 46 counties. I think there's a total of 50 voting members of the state executive committee. So we're still way down in the hole, which is the reason. We can talk about it later, but ReOrg 2027 is going to be a big focus, and the big focus is not this, let everybody do the way they want to do, and let's just kind of go easy. And if you want to do a secret kind of undercover, we think we'll surprise them and take over. No, we're going to do what we do in Greenville. We're going to be seeking in all 46 counties people that think like-minded to us, MAGA, America First, Trump supporting people, not people that necessarily just say that, people that actually do believe it and actually, do want to go hard after Drew McKissick and the Rhino establishment. I'm tired of losing. I mean, we didn't win it. Drew's been there too long. If he wins tomorrow, he's going to be 2 years or too long, and he's going to do it because people didn't run a hard reorg this year. And then obviously we had, the splinter of people of Barbara Arthur and the craziness that she has caused and the dysfunction that has been out there and even getting behind a candidate. I mean, literally, we saw some posts that she has an appeal, and if she gets in tomorrow, she's running for chair. And I don't think I know 5 people that are voting for her. And obviously, she couldn't get 5 votes in her own county. So I don't know if you can't get any votes in your own county. You can't, why on God's green earth do you think you're going to, be chairman of the state party? And I was on a podcast last night, and I said it to these gentlemen. I was like, herself out of Darlington and Ken Moran out of Georgetown. I'm like, in our statewide planning, both of them said we cannot win our counties. We cannot win Darlington, and we cannot win Georgetown. And my comment, and this is why they went ballistic and mad at me, but it's a logical comment, is if you can't win your own county, why do you think you should run for SCGOP chairman? Now, as I'm saying it on the podcast, there's 3 gentlemen there. I'm saying it out loud. They are saying it at the same time with me. It is logical sense.
Yep.
And actually, part of that is I actually think in Florida, part of their rules is I don't think you can even run for the Florida GOP chair. I've made this statement way too many times. I need to confirm it. But I was told by some people in Florida that you have to be either a chair or a state executive committeeman for your county to run for the state chair, which sounds logical to me. But of course, a Barbara Arthur and a Ken Moran are sitting there, oh, Jeff's just saying that because he knows he can win his county and he's trying to favor it all for him. No, it makes logical sense. If I can't go run what we call a revolt against the rhinos in my own county and take over, then maybe I don't have the qualifications to run a state party. Because I will tell you, I mean, we won these positions 4 years ago in 2021. It is a beast. I mean, Greenville's 90 delegates, a 12th of the state. And maybe it's easier to run 46 counties than the 151 precincts or oversee them, because they, in theory, on us. I don't even get it. But, as I told the gentleman on the podcast last night, there's two reasons people get into politics. I will give you guys as the third reason, but it's either money or it's ego. I do think there are people like us that are only doing this because we want to fix this freaking mess and hopefully get the heck out of this, but I think we need to stick around in the sense that we need to, find and develop the new people. Our precinct, the Timberlake precinct, I ran precinct in 2021, and guess what? 2023, we got a different precinct DC. In 2025, we got a different precinct DC. Now we have three people. We have myself, our last EC, and our new EC that can all help in our single precinct that I had experience, being the EC. Now we have more people that can sit there and help develop, get the voter turnout out of our precinct, out of the 2,599 people or 399 people that are in our registered voters in our precinct. We can hopefully increase voter turnout by 5 points, which is going to be here in Greenville. That's what we're going to try to do. So Greenville had 17% voter turnout 2 years ago or 1 year ago, last June of 26. We're going to try to have each of our precincts increase your voter turnout by 5 points. That's only 5 people out of 100 that didn't vote. Mathematically, that's technically not correct, but think about 5 of the people that didn't vote. If you can go get 5 of them out, it's probably 100 people. Find 100 people between now and June 9th. We will help you. We will find more people. You're all alone over there in that precinct. And I thought we found some. There's some other folks in that precinct, but yes, but we will find that, and that's what I think we can do. But we have how many days between now and June 9th, 2026? At least Cheney she is the secretary of the 4th Congressional District. She's the elected secretary. I will tell you it's 403 days from today. So y'all have 403 days to find 100 people in your precinct. It's not bad. Just a quarter of a person a day.
Go cut them up in a bit.
We don't need that because then there'll be one less registered voter in your precinct because you'll be in jail. But what think about that, and that's been the emphasis that we want to focus on. We have had to get involved in the party, take back the party from the establishment. Now we need to continue and do what we need to do from the party perspective. Kind of take back all 46 counties here in the next 2 years, if not tomorrow. But we can talk about that and the opportunities that are there. And Frank brings up a good point that kind of will go into that. But we need to get involved deeper in the elections. And the easiest part is to go out and teach people about the elections, let them know when the election is. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to around election time that say, oh, I didn't know there was a primary. I mean, we have a good friend, and I tease them to death about it, but they're like, we say, are you coming out to the primary? Oh, no, I'm going to wait for the big election in November. I'm like, it's over in the primaries. It has nothing to do with November. So you need to vote in the June primaries. We need to emphasize that to people. And that's one of the things that we emphasize in our precinct is the only thing. You are a patriot. I don't ask people in my precinct to sit there and come to ReOrg or come to these coffee politics or come to all the events or go out and door knock. I don't ask them to do all of that stuff. I mean, I would love it. And if they know that they have the opportunity, we would love for them to participate in it, and the door's wide open for it. But what I do ask them to be a patriot are 3 things. And I'll do that in reverse order. It's kind of the way I do it. November elections, we need everybody to get out and vote in November. That's a pretty easy ask because most people do it. Number 2 is we need you to vote in the June primaries. that's critical because that's where we determine who's going to be the Republican nominee and or the Democratic nominee if they're in one of those districts. But that's when, that's when you need to vote, because that's when we need to vote for the most conservative Republican is in that June primary. And then number 3, every other year come out to ReOrg. We need, the fact that, we need more people to come out to ReOrg. We need more people that are of like mind to come to ReOrg and just, overwhelm them with numbers. So at some point, we just don't all get tired of this, and then the establishment just works their way back into it. So we've worked too hard to get here. We need to make sure we keep that momentum going. And to be a patriot, we ask people to do those 3 things. You can be a super patriot if you do all this other stuff and you're crazy like we are. So that's where we go with that. So yes.
I noticed that Frank over there, you brought up that there's going to be some proposals been brought. You said Sumter's doing something.
I don't know.
It depends. Oh, that's where we were going with that. 2 years ago, or the last convention, or maybe it was in 2022. I don't know if it's just the elections they're doing tomorrow, or if there's going to be some resolutions that may be proposed. They haven't told us on the state executive committee, but I don't get the emails. But Yvonne hasn't gotten anything either. We're going to make a real focus on making sure the chair of the Greenville County Republican Party gets the emails, because this is ridiculous, and we're going to keep raising this up. And if we got to raise it up every week, to make a bigger deal out of it. But
from here, that we need to raise the proposals that the chairman's position go back to a non-paying position.
that's that.
Or at least a minimum annually, the party has to report to all of the delegates and registered people in the party of financial.
100%. But that is not the direction that the current chairman's going. That's not the direction that the current state executive committee is going. They're all about secrecy. I believe that certain things need to be secret in regards to, I don't want the Democrats knowing what we're doing, but you can do stuff like that in an executive session. But transparency into our financials. What do we do here in Greenville? We literally do a monthly, Mary Wheeler does a fantastic job. We do a monthly financial. We send that financial, or we post it on the website, and we post it with a copy of the bank statement, because we don't want to get in trouble with what the former chair down in Lexington did, Craig Caldwell. He was sitting there they were creating some sort of fraudulent financial statement that did not match to the bank statement. And he got pulled up and indicted for embezzlement of over, I think, $60,000 from the party. And he also, and this is all in the past year. And actually, we're probably going to invite David Pasco up to speak about this, because he was intimately involved in that case and getting Craig Caldwell indicted. But guess what? The local solicitor ended up giving him. He slap on the wrist when they arrested, or when they booked him. They obviously went and arrested him or took him down to jail. I think he was at jail for about 4 hours, going through 3 or 4 hours, going through the process of booking before they got him out, and he got off on time served. I think he got 8 years probation and time served for being a leader, an elected leader in a pretty big county. He got 4 hours of time, or 3 or 4 hours of time served for embezzling $90,000. It's not like he made one mistake. He made an ongoing mistake of monthly or quarterly or bi-monthly financial statements, continuing to report it. I don't think he did it alone. I think people knew about it. I think people knew when they found out about it afterwards, they were like, let us try to cover it up for you, that type of stuff. And he worked for a trust company, a local. I don't know what the settlement was on the financial side. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think there was some compensation back, but I don't think it was significant. No, I don't think it was significant. It may have been, for whatever reason, and don't quote me on this, but maybe $7,000 or $8,000, somewhere in there.
It's pretty investment.
Yeah.
But can you? And I will tell you, I've been sent the photographs and stuff like that. There's a group down there, the Midlands, and this is all establishment. It's It's called the Dawn Busters. I think they have a breakfast like once a month or something like that. He's going to those meetings. I mean, what would y'all do if I, number one, embezzled from the Greenville GOP? This is why I'm not on the bank account. I don't want to get anywhere near any of this stuff. I get accused of enough stuff. I'm like, I don't even have signing authority. I don't know anything about it. You know, Mary does all that. And that's why Mary's pretty particular. She's like, she don't want to get in trouble. But I'm like, imagine I did that, and imagine then I get off. Well, yes, ma'am. That's number one. I'd be in prison.
Yeah.
Yes, they're trying to send me to jail for things nobody goes to jail for, and they're letting guys off. Yeah. Yeah, no, I need 120 days so I can match him. But you know, they let him off on 3 or 4 hours of time served, and he's now reintegrating himself in the local GOP there. You know, I believe in second chances. I believe in all that. I believe in, you know, repentance, all forgiveness, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not quite sure.
You have to.
A couple months later, you're back in the fold, and you know, we love you. Kumbaya.
The whole deal of forgiveness and stuff is fine. Give the money back.
Well, that would be number one.
The first thing you
I
have
get
to
it.
do to be repentant of what you've
Right.
done.
I understand.
And if he's only had to give back 10% of what he took, or 1% of what he took, that's nowhere near repentance.
Yeah, and if he doesn't have a financial ability, I mean, if there's things like that, I don't really know. But their family owns a trust company. You know, it's mom and dad. The dad is involved in the local party down there too. I think.
You can't tithe your theft.
Yeah, you know, at least something.
Yep.
I agree. So it's
There you go.
it's very interesting. But that is the type of stuff that is going on, and the feeling I'm getting from other people across the state is they really want, as I want alternates, delegates, and you know, people we can get in on the customary practice, you know, to come see what goes on down there. You know, it's amazing, and it's almost unbelievable. And what if you saw our MySCGOP email, or it's on the myscgop.news website, you know, we sent it out on Thursday, and it gave the quote that came out of Fitz News from the Merle Smith article about, you know, what these politicians are really doing is, you know, they're working on behalf of the money special interests,
Right.
and what that's who they really care about, but their entire goal is to fool us into thinking they care about us.
Right.
Long enough that we keep voting for them and reelecting them and all that type of stuff. But the reality is they only care about the interest of, you know, the money special interests. That's what we need to you know, understand. You know, so the title of the article is, you know, trust none of them. But really the subtitle and really the most important piece is especially the ones you like. Think about that. You know, there's a reason I have told all of y'all, trust nobody, including us, because I don't want you just getting comfortable saying, oh, well, Jeff said that, so it's okay. I mean, give me a benefit of the doubt. I appreciate it. You know, I don't want to have to reprove myself on every single thing I say. Give me the benefit of the doubt. But you know, you need to don't just follow along.
It's like Reagan's favorite saying, trust but verify.
Trust but verify. But I mean, and actually, one of the articles we wrote had that about that. Yes, sir.
Sort of new but old idea. If you go a half hour out to the country somewhere, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, the 2-lane roads, you know, old broken down, you know, everything, and you're just out in this beautiful area, and then you see some strips along the road. And they're counting numbers of cars going by. I wonder what's going on. And then you see this lot out in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around, and it says coming, Dollar General or Walmart. Well, Walmart is not doing that for its health. The people who are dedicated to, you know, franchise, et cetera, you know, location licensee sites will look from 30,000 foot level, like where are the streams going, the traffic, the foot traffic, the wildlife, where's the flow of the city, zoning, use element, all of those things and more. And so figure out, hey, you know, the flow is this way. So like in 8 years, this place is going to be massively busy. So that's what they'll do. Well, the same way people socioeconomically, psychologically, spiritually, emotionally see, and I know this is where I'm repeating myself, but they see South Carolina as the low-hanging fruit. And so, in other words, you can, last example, when they first discovered Pluto in 1930 at Lowell Observatory, they didn't see Pluto, but they saw anomalies in other planets where something's happening. So, wait, if that's moving, then something else is out there. So, if something is happening in South Carolina, kind of like finding Pluto, in other words, like, maybe you can't put your finger on it exactly, but there's something about this, kind of like building a Walmart. There's something about this state that's low-hanging fruit because it attracts both good people and virtue-challenged people who are trying to push in. And however they can do it, that's why you see this pressure economically, real estate, vocationally, in every way to do something, because there are powers above us who from a 30,000 foot level are seeing very viable changes and things that they can arbitrage, they can take advantage of in the immediate future to their advantage and to our detriment.
Virtue challenged people is a very kind way to say it. But a lot of that is yes, you're right. I mean, you know, if and they taught us that in business school, right? I mean, you're supposed to go out there, analyze the numbers. Where's our target markets? You know, and now you're looking obviously statewide or U.S. wide. Then they're looking globally. Where can we go and make the most money? Where can we get the biggest ROI, return on investment?
Bingo.
So that's okay in the capitalistic sense, but also it also gives a responsibility back to us to push back against it, because do we want overdevelopment? Do we want, I mean, in the targeting of South Carolina, which is twofold. I think the left targets South Carolina because number one, we're first in the South, you know, for picking presidents, generally Republican presidents, but it was South Carolina that gave Biden his push to become president in 2020. I mean, it was South Carolina. He was on the ropes. He was out, but he comes into South Carolina and wins, and all of a sudden, it's straight up trajectory for Joe Biden. So South Carolina picked the president in 2020, if you believe he was elected appropriately. But the second piece is, you know, and if you look at the statistics and the numbers, it is very easy to, and I hate to use the word buy, but to buy a legislative seat here. You can win a House seat, a state House seat, for, you know, some cases, you know, there's no competition. I've seen races where somebody went to the primary, new person did primary and general election with no competition. I've seen competitive races, and it's in more of the dense areas you can have some competitive races. But I think they say on average for South Carolina, it's probably $40,000 or $50,000. In another state, it may be $100,000 or $200,000 or $300,000. Think about a congressional race. How much was spent in the 3rd congressional district? I think the total was less than $1 million. I'm not sure. I know Mark Burns borrowed $500,000, and I think it went to $750,000. And I think Biggs maybe had less than $500,000 or so. We ought to look it up exactly. But I mean, I do definitely know that Adam Morgan, he raised, you know, here in the 4th congressional district, he raised $250 and loaned his account $275 or something. So one of the two candidates spent, you know, less than $500,000 or right at $500,000. I don't know exactly what Tim's probably spent a lot more, you know, but I mean, look at a race in Texas. I talked to somebody the other day that we were talking about a Texas race that he worked on as a campaign manager. You know how much that one candidate raised? $17 million for a U.S. Congress seat in Texas, and lost. So if I'm one of these globalist type figures that's saying, where do I want to go buy a congressional seat?
Right.
I ain't going to Texas, you know, and getting 17 million, or maybe there's some other cheaper seats somewhere. But I'm like, let me go to South Carolina.
Right.
You know, I think Nancy Mace in the Catherine Templeton race down in Charleston, that was more competitive because I think McCarthy was trying to get rid of Nancy Mace because I don't think he liked her too much. I guess she was one of the ones that got helped get rid of him as Speaker of the House. But I think even in that race, I think there was only maybe $6 million or so spent between those two. I don't, and that was a hotbed of a race.
Mhm.
And I will tell you how crazy it was because we were spending some time in Charleston at that point before last June, and it was like you turn on the TV and it's like this candidate, this candidate, this candidate. I mean, it was just Nancy, Catherine, Nancy. It was just constant. So we fortunately up here, in the upstate and fourth and third congressional district here for Greenville, we haven't suffered through that. But it's easy to ratchet it up. I mean, if that person who ran for Congress out in Texas, instead of spending $17 million out there, had come here, and spent $5 million, you'd blow it away. It's like you could buy 3 congressional seats for that. It's like holy cow, and probably be guaranteed to win. So they spent $17 million and lost. So that's a big part of it. But what Frank, back to the convention, we will elect those leadership spots, chair, first vice chair, those couple of extras. I do not know, and I've not heard that there will be any rules changes and or resolutions. I don't think there are, unless so much is proposing. Well, it's probably too late for propose. Our people are proposing it. It's a little bit too late.
Somebody in one of the chats.
Yes, that's it. It's called too late. I mean, that's again, everybody's got motivation and ideas today. Well, the convention is tomorrow. Guess what? Everybody's going to have ideas and motivation on June 8th next year. Well, the election will be the next day, June 9th. We have 403 days from today to move things forward. We need to break up. We need to have a business plan for those 400 days. We need to break it up. We need to go out there and do it. We're going to challenge our precinct people to do all that type of stuff. We have a seat for you right up here, right next to me. She's like, no way. I'm staying away from that crazy guy. You don't need to have last minute ideas. You need to plan ahead. You need to have a business. We have that. We just need to implement it. And we need to be pretty hardcore about making sure our other friends in the other counties implement it, and or finding people that do believe the way we believe and are willing to step up. Because I do think our numbers far outnumber the other side. I mean, massively. And I think people, if given direction and given a plan and a vision, to kind of finish this off, they'll do it. So I don't think there will be any other type of stuff tomorrow. In regards to rules changes or resolutions, but you don't know. The 2022 convention, the emergency convention, where they changed a bunch of rules to protect themselves. They literally, and we put this out the other day and shared it. They literally sent out the rules changes and whatever the resolutions were at 8:01 a.m. on Friday, when the convention was on Saturday. Who has any time to analyze and look at a rules change, and even have any comment back? I was on the state executive committee. I was chair of the party back then, and it's kind of like I didn't even see them beforehand. Oh no. Yeah, they right.
Could come up with
right. So imagine, and that is something we could do here in Greenville. I mean, I could come up with some rules and we just put it out. If we had a minority over there that we didn't necessarily like, put it out and get a vote in our executive committee and just pass it and ramrod it through. I'm not a believer in that. We wouldn't even do that even if we could. We never have. It's not like we're just saying it. It's been 40 years and we've never ramrodded things through the other side. I am actually the opposite. I want those people to see what we want to change. And I want to see those people sit there and say, oh no, it's not a good idea to have more transparency. I'm like, we're creating a rule that has more transparency and you don't like it? Okay, please tell the world. Please come up to the front of the EC meeting and tell everybody why you think this is a bad idea. So they normally like, oh yeah, that wouldn't be a good idea. I don't want to look that stupid. I don't want to look like I only oppose you just because, you said it came out of your mouth. So
Is there any rule that they It has to be so many days before the convention that they can change things.
No, ma'am, there's not any rule that says that. I'm sure by design, there's no rule. She's asking, is there a rule that, it has to be presented to the body, so many days beforehand? So, and we actually don't have that in our rules. I mean, it's something that we should, and if Greg Peck's watching, or anybody wants to text Greg and those guys, it's something we please remind us if we forget. But that's what we need to have that in our rules. We need to hold ourselves accountable, and God forbid our mindset, it's overwhelmed. I don't know how, I can't imagine how we're going to get overwhelmed by a herd of rhinos. So, by definition, the rhinos can't grow, because how do you say, hey, come be part of my secret group? Where we're sharing the spoils of our nefarious efforts. I really don't want to share my $1 million with people, so I want to keep it as small as possible. I'm not out there growing. So we're happy for more people to attend, because there's no money in it. There's nothing to share. But we should add that to our own rules. So part of what we're going to do, and our plan is, and we did realign the rules at our convention just to kind of get the process going, reordered them. And I think there was one minor or less substantive rule change that Greg Peck and those guys put in there. But what we're going to do is make a hard push to go ahead and get as much as we can, send it out to the body, send it out to anybody who wants to look at it, give us more feedback, think about it from a perspective of what we need to change from the state party rules. Because the things that we'll fix in our Greenville rules will just be practice for fixing the state party rules whenever that opportunity then comes. And then just let's go ahead and give it to the body, let the body vote on it. And the way this works is our executive committee can change our rules, for that term, that time period, but it will revert back to the old rules at the next convention. So you have to have an entire convention body pass rules, vote on rules to make them permanent going forward. But in theory, if y'all remember at the convention, on the 14th, we recessed the convention. We did not adjourn. So when you recess the convention, you can call the convention back. So if we get the rules through, get it all documented, get everybody's thoughts and issues and concerns out there, clean that up, get it, take it to the state, to our Greenville Executive Committee, get them to vote on it. That'll be for the 2 years. And if there's a reason, maybe there might be a good reason to call the Greenville County Convention, back, have a big party and have a great speaker or something like that, and then vote on the rules and move forward. So, I think we can. I kind of like what happened on the 14th. Maybe we can do it again. so and that way we can make those rules permanent, going forward. So there's lots of opportunities and lots of fun things to do in all of this. Frank also brought up the point that Drew McKissick was speaking in Sumter. I originally, and it's been pretty public out there, I think our numbers or certainly were about 100 shy. If you look at just traditionally, these are MAGA people, these are the establishment old guard people, or under leadership of the old guard people, we were about 100 behind. We became that way, number one, because our folks in Lexington didn't participate. That's 51 votes. They took out Lexington, all that kind of stuff. Same thing Horry did 2 years ago. Lexington at least was given the advice under council, with some stuff that they're doing, that they should not participate, or at least some of them. I argued for some of our people to make an effort at it, and they were going to focus on some other counties and some stuff like that. But that was 51 votes. But what they did in Charleston was really the coup de grace, of cheating and ramrodding. And I'm kind of curious to see if they try to do what they did in Charleston to the state convention tomorrow. But that was 70 delegates. I think we had 68 of them 2 years ago. And that's almost we won a few extra counties and some other delegates in some other places, and obviously Spartanburg was big with the plus 57 over there, but it was impossible to overcome. And now what they did in Charleston, and I want to keep telling people this because we need to get this story out there, and I know there's some appeals and some things like that that are being pushed. But there should be some legal appeals, or should go after the courts on this. So I would love to see a judge rule that this is fine, but imagine chair opens up the convention. That's in state law. So I'm the chair. I open up the convention. And first thing we do is we elect the temporary president. So I can hand it off to somebody unbiased. Well, we put up an establishment temporary chair and a MAGA America First person. So let's have a vote. I'm still running it because I'm calling the vote on the temporary chair. Okay, let's do a voice vote. They did a voice vote. The chair, it's an establishment guy, runs a big national political consultant, runs a big national political firm. He says, "Oh, I think this guy, the Rhino guy, wins."
What a cheater.
I've heard the audio tapes, the
Wow.
recordings,
Yeah.
and you can tell it sounds like our side has it. Now, I will discount the fact that, yes, the recording came from one of our people, so it's going to be closer to our people. But I don't really care if it's, 10%? If there's if there's opposition, there should be some sort of way. There should be a ballot.
It should be a
There
ballot.
should be a ballot,
People running fast.
cards,
Not-
division. Y'all remember what we did in 23? They made us go, you people get on this side, you people get on that side, which was interesting because some people got dirty looks because they went to the wrong side. They're like, why are you going to Jeff Davison's side? What? Wait a second. So, that's right. So, and quite frankly, fortunately, I will give Mark Benoit credit for this. He was the person for the state party that was up there doing it in 23. He called it our way. And I think he knew there'd be a riot otherwise, because it was, once the people broke into halves, it was obvious. But that's why I'm back to the 75%. We need to make it obvious. It's not like a precinct where you got 15 people or something and you can count it out. And when you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's anywhere close, 50% plus one, if it's 60-40, that's too close, and they'll call it the other direction. So that's what they did on the leaders, on the temporary president, who then ultimately becomes a permanent president. They ramrodded through the rule because the rules changed, everything went their way. So they did it then they did it on the leadership elections, voice vote. We had a MAGA America First person run for chair. They had their person. Who do you think their person won? Of course, the old chair got reelected by the guy that he sat there and called the election for. You can't. There's an appeal that's going up, that's being heard, but who do you think it's being heard by? It's
Their buddies.
It's the credentialing, so or somebody.
I was shocked at the last convention, whoever was the first person to run things, I call him the Rhino auctioneer. I barely waved bye-bye when I was there because I hardly knew anything. But I'm just sitting down in my seat, literally just sitting down in my seat. This guy said, "Well, we're going to the convention, we're going to do this, okay, but passes, that passes, that passes." Like, I sat down and said, "What just happened?" I mean, it's like it's a tractor auction in Omaha.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't even understand. And it felt like 2 or 3 things passed by the time I sat in my seat.
Right. And that is done purposely.
Rhino auctioneer.
And you
They-
couldn't even hear where we were sitting.
Right.
When we had Greenville.
Yeah.
But that is realized. But that's the ramrodding piece I'm talking about. That's what that is what I consider ramrodding. People used to give me grief. Oh, Jeff, your meetings go on too long. They did go till midnight sometimes in the old days when we were first getting going. But it was. I wanted everybody to understand. If there's, I hate to say, some people you can never understand, right? It's what's the old outlook? I love this joke. It's the old joke. I can explain it to you. I can't understand it for you. So there's some of those people that just will never get it. But I mean, you got to give a normal person an opportunity to understand. You got to give them time in advance to know what it is. You need to talk to them about what's going to happen so they don't feel that way. But I will tell you how it helps us, Tress, is the fact that when people see it, they get so upset, then they get activated. Spartanburg got ramrodded with a Spartanburg County Convention in 2023, 2 years ago. And it was done by Josh Kimbrell He was the guy up there. He was the temporary. That's what I'm saying. These politicians. But then again, nobody ran against Josh Kimbrell in 2024, which is another beef I have. I mean, I'm like, he ran, but they did at least get involved in ReOrg, and the motivation was because they saw how bad and the evil, I would call it, because this is a spiritual war. The evil that was perpetrated on them. And so they just got up there, they motivated. They did exactly what we did in Greenville back in 2021. And they ran a hard game and they won it. And it's been inspirational for a lot of people across the state. And I will tell you the other thing, because a lot of this is about tips and figuring out the rhino tricks and all those kind of things. Just the counting, even if you think, when they sit there and they count everybody in the room, blah, 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 they told me an example of even at the Spartanburg convention last month, that when somebody counted, I'm counting this section over here. The teller committee does this, right? So I'm going to count this piece, you count this piece. They counted 62 people. And the establishment person said that. Oh, I got 62 for this. And one of the people on our side said, I counted 75. Where did you get 62? So they recounted, and of course it was 75.
Smartmatic.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they're paper votes that someone counts.
You can do it. It takes a little bit more time. They did something it's called a serpentine vote, which is kind of interesting. That they all got in a line, and serpentine kind of got in a line and counted it that way. So there is the ability to do that. I wasn't even aware you could do that. So they've actually studied up and did a bunch of stuff because that's how they wanted to make sure they got a proper count. And they were happy to stand up and say, I vote this. It could be a little bit faster than doing ballots or something like that if everybody, just like division of people standing. So obviously the side wins. So
when they counted Serpentine, I think it was.
Oh, you were there. That's
Yes.
right. You're a Spartanburg.
Everybody, when they counted, they sat down. They committed everybody, and they got a fairly accurate count on both sides.
Right.
And
And our people had about almost 75%, if I know what the
Yes.
numbers were.
that's incredible.
Right.
Remember the county convention, or when the number of people of votes was bigger than the number of people?
Where was that? Yeah, there was.
That was when that Josh Kimbrell was at.
Oh, in Spartanburg? Or a state convention?
It wasn't state,
That was at the 4th Congressional District.
Oh, yes. At the 4th Congressional District, yes. And remember how many times we had to go through the counting and the counting and the counting? And you know what, at the end of the day, you know what the reason was? Do you remember? It was Hal Roach, who was Nate Lloyd's old protege, the old parliamentarian. Nate Lloyd was running that convention because, he was elected chair of the 4th Congressional District for 4 years. This, obviously we replaced him. So he's up there and he's bringing his people in. Hal's sitting there, I assume he was counting too, but his girlfriend who was sitting there, who wasn't even the delegate, they were counting her. I'm like, wait a second, why is she even in the room? I'm like, how are we getting more people than we have votes, or more, more vote? The total is more than the delegates that were there.
That would be Roach's rules of order.
Yeah,
yeah.
Roach's rules of order. We ought to,
I'm reading for you the resolution packet for tomorrow.
oh, there is a resolution packet. Oh, so welcome to On the Spot News.
And then there is I found out who apparently SCGOP is going to be nominating for election, for convention president.
Who's that?
I love that. Jay Rackley.
Oh, of course, Jay Ragg. Yes.
So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
replied to our state email
Oh,
because
he does.
someone said he did excellent job
You're kidding me. Somebody said,
the Richland convention,
are you kidding?
and I said, does that not tell you enough?
Jay Ragg is a political consultant. His
No,
wife
it's his
is as well. I think she's got some
They work at the state.
big paid job doing something. Probably like to stay there. We pay. Longer story.
Got to go see you tomorrow.
Thanks, George. But that guy literally doesn't care. That guy, he actually came in and quashed the school choice bill of ours with Tony Denny, who's the rules committee, and other lobbyists. I mean, these people, you need to see it. Jay Ragley is somebody you're going to need to see tomorrow. So excellent job in Richland. Of course, Richland's, Drew McKissickville. But, why are we only getting the resolutions that'll be passed tomorrow? They could be meaningful. At least they're not rules changes. We could get rules changes later today.
The resolution of South Carolina Republican Party, the Gordy restriction of interference from federal district courts.
Yeah, I'm sure it's, see if there's anything interesting. My guess is it's normal, closed primaries, judges, that type of stuff.
They're putting a resolution for the South Carolina Republican Party expressing support for nominating candidates like crime.
Listen, I support it.
God forbid someone's
Oh.
shit for convention.
Oh, I support it too. It doesn't say nominating of candidates by closed primaries or just
No,
primaries?
it's primary.
Oh, just by primary. Okay. So but why are we only getting this
Okay,
today?
This is, I don't know why we're even addressed. No, actually, that's weird. Resolution of the South Carolina Republican Party to ensure bipartisan representation for poll managers and clerks at polling places.
Yeah, that one's.
Why are we advocating for the other side?
I don't know. We made an effort here in Greenville to kind of make sure, we got Republicans at all the polling locations and all that stuff. So, maybe it's a good thing in Democratic areas. I don't know.
And last one, if you're interested, too much to read, but resolution of the South Carolina Republican Party affirming real property owners' right to law enforcement assistance to remove trespassers and squatters from their properties without suffering undue delay and hardship, attorney fees, and.
That issue came up about 3 or 4 years ago. The party should be leading the way on things, not coming up with something that's been an issue, a bigger issue from 3 years ago. But again, when did the email come out? What time?
Just right now.
So noon on a Friday when the convention's at tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So less than 24 hours.
23 hours.
So I would suggest, at least in our rules, 48 hours. Are we?
Yeah.
Or how about a week?
I like
How about a week or two?
It's a lot.
So I mean,
That's
it's
funny.
it is what it is. But that we need to take the realization, and there's nothing real substantial in there. Now, if there had been something about rules and changing rules and doing things like that, that's that are more protective of themselves, that's a problem. So
They'll have those out.
they may hand them out tomorrow registration. So
Last hour ones.
yeah, but if you're an alternate, even though you might not be moved up or voting for Greenville, I would highly encourage you, and I think it may make a difference, in the elections tomorrow if you're out, especially if you're out of a different county that may have other folks that don't come. And I will tell you, our former county council member in my district here in Greenville, Stan Juvalakis, Stan won his race initially 4 years ago, now 5 years ago. He won it by, I think, 3 votes, county council. That's 2 extra doors knocked on. That's, a couple extra phone calls. That's a couple following up. Yeah.
Recount, he won by 2 or 3.
I think it was 2, but it could, 2 years ago, we were 16 votes. Now, back to the original piece of it, I thought we were 100 votes down. If you just look at the traditional MAGA, America First stuff, as I've told our people, I've spoken to a fair number of establishment people over the past 2 years, as early 4 years. There's establishment people that don't like Drew McKissick, that realize it's a problem.
Why, if I may ask, what's their?
It's back to either they're probably on the outs with Drew,
Okay.
number one, or number two, maybe there is a glimmer of hope in their heart somewhere,
Seeing through it.
seeing through it, or realize Drew's just gone too far. This is too far.
Trump fired him from the national.
Well, Trump did fire Drew McKissick and Ronna McDaniel, and as I've told people over and over, if Trump had not fired Ronna McDaniel as chair and Drew McKissick as vice chair of the RNC back in February of 2024, Donald Trump would not have been elected president.
Absolutely.
Yep, correct.
And I've had nobody debate me on that and say, no, I think Ronna could have done it. Ronna and Drew could have done it. I'm like, no, Ronna and Drew would, there were things that happened in years past that we're literally sitting there saying, are they trying to make Trump lose. And yeah, they were. I think they were.
Ronan
Yes.
proved herself in 2020 when she ran a horrible campaign.
So he has been fired for that. But traditionally, 100 votes behind. Kind of talked about the different counties and what happened there. But there are those people on that side that could come our way. There are people that have been whipping the votes and talking. And I had a gentleman. I won't tell you what county, but I will tell you. I mean, I didn't think we had any votes out of that county, and maybe 2 or 3. And this person said, that they thought there were more. And this person wasn't even calling me about that. They were calling about something else, but has never been to a convention and was sitting there saying, I think there's more people on our list that would vote. And he volunteered this. I'm like, really? Y'all think y'all have more than that? Because I thought the whole county had 2 or 3. I said, well, start calling those people and talking to them and say, and there's a lot of people that don't like Drew. I mean, it's not just us. So back to Tress's question about why, there is the third thing too. The establishment is scared to death. Oh my God, these guys, the crazies, us, are going to take over. Maybe not this time, but next time.
Very close.
And they're going to say, it's maybe we ought to find something that's more manageable before these guys who aren't manageable take over.
Right.
Right?
Currying favor preemptively.
Correct. Because I will tell you the last thing the establishment and or some of the people that aren't on the establishment, even on our side, last thing they want is Jeff Davis. Because guess what? We hold everybody accountable. And we hold ourselves. Y'all heard me talk about it. I want y'all to hold me accountable. This is, I don't know why I think this way, but it's the legal, it's the accounting, it's the risk management, it's all that type of stuff. But this is the way we need to be if you want a long-term organization that is going to operate. The goal is not, if the goal had been from the beginning, let's get Jeff Davis elected, I do things a whole lot different. The goal is to purge out the bad element of politics.
Kind of like right now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, that's what Trump's doing. And that's what's giving people more confidence and more energy to be able to say, you know what, we do need to stand up. And some of the things Trump says may seem mean.
The stock market went up 100 points.
Take a look at Truman, Churchill, Pershing, and how they would talk. Look at any of the quotes from Churchill. We could have had Neville Chamberlain and Mr. Rogers in England, or we could have had Churchill. And look at what he did when the Nazis could see through field glasses the people at the White Cliffs of Dover, and they were preparing Operation Sea Lion to invade England, and they held down. They stood down because of Churchill. So I'll take the mean tweets any day. Really fast, if I may. Gandhi quote: "First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win."
That's right. And that's been our progression of where we're going. So I am super confident we are going to win. I'm super confident we'll win in 27. I do have some hope that we may slip something past them this time, because the people that have been calling, working really hard, whipping up the votes, trying to find the numbers, trying to find people out there, and those efforts actually do work. It will work to sit there. The gentleman I talked to today, if they end up calling 30 people or 25 people or 45 people, whatever, in their county, and reaching out to them, with a objective, say, hey, vote. Drew's a bad person, right? You're going to vote for. I don't know who's running on the other side. We can talk about who it is, but and just say, hey, vote for anybody but Drew, and find out where those people go. Now that guy, they may tell him one thing on the phone, they may end up voting a different way. Who really knows? But it's going to help him see through the fact that a lot of these people are okay with the status quo of Drew McKissick. And holy cow, they're okay. If you're okay with the status quo of Drew McKissick, you need to go. Because nobody objectively will look at Drew McKissick and the way he runs and does things, as evidenced by resolutions to be voted on tomorrow coming out today. It's objectively, anybody is going to sit there and say that's a problem. So, yes, Paul.
I got a different take on Trump.
Okay, speak loud.
Trump is not a politician. He's a businessman.
Trump is a businessman. You're
When
correct.
he went into his first office, he made a mistake of saying, I'm going to clean out the swamp. The swamp is everybody in Washington. I don't care what you say.
So you're now on fully on my side. Everybody is the swamp. Yes. I joke. Because my joke is I don't like 95% of them. I can't tell you the 5% I like. My one qualification is I do like Curtis Loftus, and especially, the way he was treated. But you're right. I mean, the swamp is anybody up there, and
It's in all levels too.
it is.
State, county, city.
It's worse. My only debate would be it's worse locally than it is in DC.
Why is it?
Why?
A low vote count.
Low voter turnout. And what are we talking? You may have walked in there afterwards, but our goal, what we're going to be asking everybody in every precinct to do, is increase your voter turnout for last June by 5 points. So we got 403 days from today to the June 9th, 2026 primary to bring 5 extra voters out of 100 that did not vote 1 year ago. Yes, sir.
If I may just mention, on May 13th, we're planning a zone meeting for Zone 7.
Zone 7 here in Greenville. We've taken Greenville County and broken it into 12 zones. May 13th, we got a zone meeting. I'm in Zone 7.
6 o'clock at the
6
Civil
o'clock.
Library, which is the Pelham Road branch.
Pelham Road branch of the library.
We'd like to have people come, and we're planning to cover topics about how to get more informed, how to focus on constitutional issues, and bad news. That's the focus of our zone meeting.
And I got 2 other things we can focus on,
Okay.
if you don't mind. The turnout I talked about, but we want to challenge all of our precincts and our folks to that 5-point challenge. And then number 2, one of the deliverables we're going to be asking up here in Greenville is how do you map out? We want them to literally take their precinct map and map out the walk routes. Physically go, write it down, draw it out, turn it in, so we can then have the whether it's 5 or 10 or 15 walk routes for each precinct. We need that. Remember 4 years ago, it was almost impossible to find maps. We now found the maps. Let's go ahead and get the walk routes. So people, and I think when people start thinking about it, looking at it, drawing it out, say these are the 15 walk routes where I can go out and hand off 50 or 100 packets or knock on 100 doors, and that, come up with those walk routes. We can talk about this stuff all day, but that's, we got to start doing some of it too. It's not just watching a podcast or talking about it or coming and having a social and bitching and moaning. We got to start doing things. And Austin and I and the rest of us, finish up some of the tech stuff to get people in here making phone calls on a daily basis and doing some things like that. So the better we can do, the more active and the more deliverables we can get on that, I think we're going to do a lot better. So we got to quit talking about it and actually do it. So it's going to be fun. So, but back to we'll see how that is, but it could be a very close race, and as evidenced by the fact that Drew McKissick is talking in his home base. He's in Sumter. It's Rhino Central down there. I mean, who's the Speaker of the House? Merle Smith. Where's he from? Sumter. I'm like, I'm looked on we file our ethics reports, and Drew McKissick's telling people not to file ethics reports, but we're supposed to report who our donors and all that stuff are to the party. I looked on Merle Smith's ethics reports. Oh, $5,000 to the Spartanburg GOP. Oh, here's $5,000 to the Spartanburg GOP. Y'all will not see that on our treasurer's report. Or it'll be interesting if we ever get $5,000 from a politician to the Greenville County GOP. So it'll be interesting. But so it should be close. But I mean, imagine in the old days when what was it, Hillary, going to some of her, when she's speaking in New York, or Trump went on the offense. If Drew was coming into Greenville to speak, or Drew was coming into some MAGA counties to speak, that would be like, oh, we got a problem, But he's going to his base that he's trying to rally up, because the last thing he wants to do is lose that job. There's the last thing the money special interests want is him to lose that job. Because I don't know if y'all remember, 2 years ago I spoke in Dorchester. Drew actually spoke before me, and he just rambled off, about some of the donation stuff to the party. And he talked about the numbers, and we don't have any clarity of the numbers, but he started talking about it. And he talked about, I think 50% of it comes from $50,000 plus donors. It was either 25 or 50. I think it was $50,000 plus donors. And I'm like, who's giving $50,000 to the state party? And if they're in what? Yes, that is my point. And I had a long discussion with a legislator about that yesterday. I'm like, I don't care if somebody's giving $50,000, they want something for it. There are some of us, but just do some things, but it ain't necessarily $50,000. It's helping out to keep the cause going and, keep the machine, the wheels greased and all that kind of stuff, because they're benefiting from the machine. It's not that they're sitting there saying, hey, I'm so motivated by Trump draining the swamp. Let me give Drew McKissick $50,000. No, I don't think anybody said that. So I can't imagine, hard MAGA America first person giving Drew McKissick $50,000 to the SCGOP.
No
So it's pretty obvious once you get into it. And I will tell you, my argument with that was the fact that we all complain about dark money. Does everybody know what dark money is? It's it's untraceable. So politicians, we donate to a politician. You give them $50 or $1,000, the legal maximum, or you give $3,300 to a federal campaign or something. Your name's on a list. They know who's donated to you, right? We know. We can go look it up. I can go to scethics.gov and look up the state donations. I can go to fec.gov and look up the federal donations. But I don't know who donated to XYZ, other, even a nonprofit, a 501c3. My SCGOP is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. It's tax deductible. If you like to send a check, it's kind of a joke, but not a joke. But it's somebody asked us, because they were going around saying that we were funded by Soros, and that we were all this dark money and all this. I'm like, what are you talking? And this was a good friend of mine, actually a former chair from another county, and I'm like, I got no problem telling you where we get our money from, because it's from us. It's from what we've been doing, and what satisfied him is I said we can look up our tax return. I'm happy to give you our tax return. I said the only problem is we file what's called a postcard tax return. Because if you're under $50,000 of donations, you don't have to just it's just it's under 50 grand. He's like, oh, you're under 50 grand? I thought you were funded by Soros. I mean, that would be millions. And I guess we run an operation that looks like we're funded by millions. I don't know. But it was under 50 grand. So he's, that's, I'm perfectly satisfied with that. But I'm like, in my conversation, and I hate, not that I hate to pick on him, but I'm like, my issue is Jim DeMint. And I'm like, Jim DeMint has an organization that gets $45 million a year. Where's it coming from? Who's giving $45 million? Has anybody here donated to the Conservative Partnership Institute in DC because Jim DeMint called them or sent them an email or?
Jim DeMint.
Good answer. Former U.S. Senator from here, former 4th District Congressional Congressman from here in the old days. But he promotes Palmetto Promise, Ellen Weaver, all that kind of stuff. Our issue in the discussion we were having was over school choice. Jim DeMint has been pushing the education savings accounts, which are 100% government run. Why would anybody promote anything that's 100% government run other than the military? And I don't, I'm even okay with private contractors on the military side. But I'm like, why are you, pushing, when there's a very viable constitutional, has worked great school choice, method, free market solution? Why is Jim DeMint doing it?
Because they themselves are government run.
Right. Yes, they are government run because it's the same money, special interest. But I'm like, somebody's giving. We're trying to connect the dots for this person. I'm like, where's that $45 million? And they were saying, I don't know about this dark money. I'm like, well, who are the donors? Who are the $45 million of donors? I don't know. I cannot go look them up anywhere.
Two things. I heard yesterday Steve Bannon mention his name in a very positive way. I don't know if you did.
He did at our convention. Well, I'm not sure if he did at our, maybe it mentioned it somewhere else. But yes, I have heard him say positive things. I've not had that argument or, yeah.
But all I can think of is USAID. The money, 45 million, must come from the taxpayer somehow, some
It
way.
could, there's a, I can look on the tax, there's a disclosure whether it's government money versus private money. There is a differentiation there. I haven't looked to see, and I don't know, I wouldn't want to speak about it, but I do know it's $45 million from somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, we're not raising $45 million. And my point was, it's not $15 a month donors.
Yeah.
You know, and I was talking to this particular legislator, and I'm like, you know what it's like to go out and reach out to the grassroots and get a $15 check or a $50 check or whatever. It doesn't happen. You know, most people don't do it.
Mike Benz had a podcast where he said the Department of Defense money, and I think it's quite a big money, goes to USA. So if you give to the Department of Defense, that automatically USAID has a portion of that.
Well, fortunately, a lot of that has been opened up, and a lot of people are seeing it. Hopefully it continues. You know, but I mean that's the game a lot of these people have known, and and very few people other than Trump has said, "Oh, I've seen the game. I'm going to go shake the whole bottle up and then break it up." Most people say, "Oh, well, how do I take advantage of it?" Yep. And it's a different day, and I think we need to do that all the way down. Not just at the federal level. And this is the Doge concept. But as I've said, Doge is us. It's individuals. It's not a group that goes out and names themselves and buys the URL at Doge SC. I mean, it is individual citizens. Because I don't know where SC Doge might come from. So, yes, sir.
I have a question about the immigration issue.
Okay.
And we've heard about people deputizing sheriffs to go out and pursue immigration issues.
Yes.
And we've heard about how this could be done at the state level and it can be done at the Florida level. Why can't we do it at the South Carolina level? I have another question. Why can't we do it at the county level? Why can't our sheriff go out and delegate people?
Okay. Bob's asking the question about deputizing for the federal, state. Why are we not doing the state or local county level? Why is your sheriff not deputizing people to go out and bring in illegal immigrants? Right.
Is that what sheriffs do?
Okay. That is true. But my response to you is, Bob, why do you ask a question you know the answer to? Why don't we do it?
Why don't we do that?
Because guess what? I think all those people are part of the machine too. Hobart Lewis is part of the machine.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
He doesn't want to do it. Who is going to be happy if some of us, we will, yes, but we get it. We understand it. We understand that he can do it. We'll be happy. But, all politicians are interested in getting elected and then getting reelected. He does not want to, number one, upset people that would potentially reelect him. And number two, he does not want to upset people that may potentially give him a whatever might be higher position so he can advance to whatever he wants to advance to.
And my question is, why don't we force the issue?
I have no problem asking in the sense of forcing the issue, but I will tell you, I think the way we force the issue is we get all of our precincts to increase their voter turnout by 5 points and make sure they're MAGA America First people. Find those 100, of the 100 people in your precinct that did not vote before, that will vote, that are relatively likely, people that have given up because they don't trust the system or think it doesn't matter. How many people have told you that, oh, I don't think my vote really matters. It mattered to Stan Jubilakis. He won by 2 votes. 16 people mattered. Actually, I'm sorry, it's not even 16 people. It's 8. Because the vote swing 2 years ago was 16. Actually, it was 14. But 2 of our people sat in the Charleston area and got their votes counted over there. So if they'd have been closer, we would have made a bigger deal to get those 2 votes back into. So it was, in 14 votes, it's not 14 votes, it's 7 people voting one way or the other way.
Yep.
So if we had moved 7 out of the 943, then we would have won 2 years ago. So
When you talk about increasing by 5 points, what do you mean by points?
instead of saying 5%, I don't want people to go. It's really, if our voter turnout was 17%, 5 points would be 22%. So look at, and I've asked to do it. We'll get an Excel download or whatever, and all 151 precincts, what the turnout was, what the number of registered voters were. So number of registered voters. Think about this Excel spreadsheet: number of registered, all the precincts, 151 registered voters in that precinct, voter turnout in June of 24. You can then do the percentage. Then you can add 5 points to that percentage, and then then multiply that out and get the goal of the number of people you need to turn out.
Does it show who voted?
We'll do it. We'll do that piece of it for everyone. But we do want each of the precincts to say, hey, here's your map, draw it out. You know your neighborhood the best. I mean, we knew our neighborhood the best. I mean, there's a process to doing it, and even if you just hand draw it, and maybe we'll get an intern or something to make them all look clean and pretty. But at least if hey, here's my map, here I've drawn out, and I got X number of things, and I think there's this
So
number.
do we know who actually turned out and voted?
Yes, we do. We can get the records of that, who actually voted. Yes. So then you can look at, right. And I think that's a lot of what we're doing. It's not within the party, but we share with our people the GOP plus piece of it. We've got all 3.4 million voters. We've got the ability to show you who voted in each of the things. And yes, we can do it.
Target the ones that did.
Yes.
Or even convert you.
Or even convert. We can work on it. But look at what Trump and those guys did. What Scott Presser did. So what we're talking about is what Steve Bannon talks about is the pick and shovel work. Scott Presser did the pick and shovel hard work. I mean, I can sit here and say, you know what, instead of doing coffee and politics and trying to motivate people, me and a couple buddies need to sit around and do our data analytics, and we can do this. And if I go get somebody to give me a bunch of money, we can then, do more mailers or targeted this data stuff to them. We can do that. Or, and we want to do that. So, I mean, that's part of it. But my belief is it's got to come from the people. It's got to be hard pick and shovel work. If you don't give a darn about your getting out, your precinct, then why should I? I mean, I can make more. I should be digging ditches to make more money, and I'd rather be doing tax returns or illegal work.
I can tell you this from firsthand experience. I get enough of these political advertisers in my mailbox every day. You know where they end up? In file 13.
Right.
And people, that's what happens. They drive through a neighborhood, the post office drives through the post office, everybody's mailbox, and they're hoping that they get one person's mind changed. The best way to change somebody's mind is to be in their face explaining why they changed their mind.
And not just a random person, the guy that owns the house down the street from you.
Right.
You talking to your neighbor, you going and talking to your neighbor is more valuable
Then that's a piece of paper
than a piece of paper they send in the mail, or some kid they hired from Texas to come here and knock on doors that then gets caught. Remember the DeSantis kid that was talking about smoking pot? He got caught on the ring phone. We said that out. I have to go forward that out again. That was great.
But
that kid's not going to change somebody's mind. It's gonna stir people up for turnout. But what I'm talking about is stirring people up for turnout, number one, and changing their mind, because this is my neighbor down the street. He's involved in the party. He knows what's going on, and I'm going to follow what he does.
Ask the question.
Right.
At ReOrg America, they said, don't expect like Trump to do everything. Everybody needs to do something, and that will make a big.
Correct.
Yeah.
Everybody
needs to do
doing something. Now,
my theory, the more hands you have, the
The more
easier
you
the work
get
is.
right.
Mhm.
More hands that do it, the easier it is to get done. So
And
it's
there are
like pulling rope.
100 ways.
And it's not just door knocking. It's not getting out, walking the streets and sweat. I mean, I get out today and it was hot. So I was like, yeah, but it's calling, it's texting, it's all that. It is, but number one, we got to know the data and the information for our precincts. We got to know, we got to have our walk maps and, our areas that we need to target for stuff. We need to know the data, like who has voted and who hasn't voted, and then just go out and do some of that type of stuff. One of the things we want to be able to do, I'm a big believer of, I think will make a difference is texting, not texting from some random 803 number or 800 or 888 number. It's a text from Jeff Davis to people in my precinct saying, hey, this is Jeff. I'm actually only a delegate from I guess all will have to do it. So, I'm the president of the Timberlake precinct. And, we'd like you to, remind you that this election's coming out. Please mark it on your calendar. And we do have early voting, so we're going to push early voting like we did last time until we get same day voting. But then we're going to start pushing, hey, go vote early. And then we're able to get the data to show who has voted early already. Okay, we got those names, take them on the list. Do not text them, call them, door knock them anymore. These are the list, and these people haven't come out. But actually, even before the early voting, we need to know the people that we want to come out. Right. There's a gentleman in another county. I talked to him about his precinct ReOrg because he actually turned out a lot of people in his precinct, broke our record. So I was like, I got to call him and talk to him. But he said, he walked around and talked to everybody in the neighborhood. He's like, I can tell you the people voted that the Republicans that he was working on. He's like, I can tell you which ones like Trump. I can tell you which ones like DeSantis and which ones like Nikki. And he went and talked to obviously the ones that like Trump for bringing out ReOrg. For us, the DeSantis people come over. I'm probably not calling the Nikki people for the June primary, but I definitely want to get the rest of them. Or you never know. Maybe they're like, who only knows what somebody with Big Nikki Haley. But we gotta get that granular, and that's what we want our precinct EC or somebody in the precinct that wants to do it. We're looking for that what do they call anal retentive or OCD person in each precinct. We got to find an OCD person in each precinct that wants to know all this stuff, look at the data, clean it all up, clean the phone numbers up, all that good stuff. Yes.
When we were at ReAwaken America, and more recently, I watched this person's video. I met Dr. Simone Gold, who's one of the founders of Gold Care and the Frontline Doctors. And she's both a doctor and a lawyer. And she said there's a phenomenon that occurs. If you're in a public place and you see a bad thing happen, somebody's getting attacked or raped, and the whole crowd just stands there, the bad thing will continue to happen. But if she said, if one person stands up and says, no, that's not going to happen, and they stand up, that starts to stiffen the backs and spines of the gutless men and women around. And they think, well, screw it. If they're going, I'll stand up too for that. I'll stand up. All of a sudden, you have a whole crowd. So what happens is, like Jeff is saying, if you write a letter to the editor, pray, talk to your friends, go to the door knock, make calls, do texts, etc., all that stuff. Just pick your whatever, I'll do this, but not that. That's fine, whatever. But you do that and you start to stand up, then that raises and stiffens the spines of people. And then all of a sudden, well, if he's doing it, I might as well do it too. And that stiffens the spines of others to stand up.
How many people have went along with good people in ovens? And they just went along. Now, probably the people that stood up got killed too, and they got stuck in there too. But fortunately, we're not being killed. But actually, it's funny that you say that. The first person standing up is critically important, but it's the second person they say that solidifies it. When one crazy person comes and say something, but then a second person stands up, then they're like, oh, well, it must be right. So that brings everybody. There's a funny video that talks about that.
I like reading Medal of Honor stories, and most of the Medal of Honor winner stories, if you look at them, were in overwhelming, desperate situations. All was lost. Everything was ruined. I didn't serve, but people around them were dead and dying, maimed, and everything. And this one person is left, and they're just getting so angry at evil, and they're going like, "Well, why not?" And so they grab their gun. And they start charging toward the enemy. And then somebody's saying, well, they're nuts, and I'm wounded, but I might as well follow my insane wounded buddy. And then say, well, why don't we take, and all of a sudden, You have this spearhead, and that's how it starts. And I read, and that happened over and over and over and over again with the Medal of Honor winners.
It happened with the Medal of Honor winners and a lot of people that were never recognized. And,
Yeah.
too. But you know, you are tested in those types of situations, and we're being tested in this situation. Unfortunately, we don't have to grab a gun and charge into a hail of gunfire. You know, we're not there yet, and but if we don't stand up, we will be there yet. I think we were certainly on a path that we would not have known how bad it was, but for Trump of 2016, we would not have had a chance to correct it, but for Trump of 2024. And yeah, I mean, it is, you know, but it is not just Trump. It's the people. It's what Steve Bannon calls the war room posse. Y'all are the war room posse for South Carolina. It's, in our case, Presley Studd's here. You know, I mean, Presley stood up and he got beat down for it. Remember when he ran for chair in 2019 and the accusations of him beating his wife? Literally, his wife had Parkinson's disease, got a little unmanageable sometimes, you know, so actually the police have been called to his home a couple times. He or she, what, not even the sons. There was an issue, you know, so his sons, I don't know exactly. But, you know, I mean, if you've dealt with someone with Parkinson's, there's issue, or kids with autism, things like that. There's sometimes things come up. People spread, I think, I don't know, rumors that he was beating his wife. Have I ever been accused of beating you? I don't think that's well, that was me accusing you. Oh yeah, and Bob's making a reminder. He was number one. He was a pastor. I mean, he was a Navy chaplain. Crossed over, you know, Marines don't have chaplains because they want to kill everybody. You know, you're not supposed to kill everybody if you're a chaplain. So I mean, he was you know, signed with the Marines. You know, and I have never seen people that have been so nasty. Now, I'm going to recommend to everybody, if you got Amazon Prime, go on there and watch. If you like binge watching TV, if you want to look at it as an educational thing, go watch The Apprentice. They just came out with it a couple weeks ago. They've got like 6 or 7 seasons of it. I don't think they have the celebrity stuff. It was just the normal people. And watch it. It will blow your mind. I've never watched it before. Olga watched him in the old days. That's why she liked Trump. I liked him for the book, The Art of the Deal. But, you know, and obviously when he was doing that TV thing, I had no time for that. But, you know, watch it. The guy has not changed. In some of the things that he says in their little boardroom encounters and all that, way he fires people and stuff like that. And he does say sorry a lot of times to the people when he fires them. Everybody says he wouldn't say sorry. He actually, you know, you're fired. Sorry. So, but he will say things that you'll like, that's exactly what the problem was then, what he's doing now. You will better understand why he is doing what he is doing. And there was one show the other day that we watched that one of the people on there was, you know, because sometimes it's about sales and, oh, this group sells more than that. This individual had texted a friend and said, come to such, you know, Trump Tower, act like you don't know me, bring $50 cash, buy a petty, you know, one of those petty cab rides. And so what Trump had done is, I guess they found out about it somehow. He called all those people down. And this was actually after the Great Recession and Wall Street and all the stuff that was going on there. So he called the final 6 or 7 or 8 people down, and he says, I have been informed, and he called the guy out, that you've been texting people, you know, in violation of the rules, asking you to do. And he's like, no, sir, Mr. Trump, I haven't. Lied to him. And I'm like, holy cat. Like, you don't know that you texted somebody? You know, and his later excuse was, well, they didn't show up. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? But Trump made a comment. I mean, he said, well, do you want me to read it? You know, this is like being in front of your parents. And it's like, but it's on national TV and it's Donald Trump. You're like, oh my God. You know, and you're lying to him. And he reads it. And it was like, him inviting his friend over. He's like, well, that was now that the boardroom, it is horrible. I mean, but Trump made the comment that this has been the problem with Wall Street for the past 5 years. People have lost, and he's like, Trump was clear. He's like, I'm all about any advantage in winning and doing that and that type of stuff and all that. But don't you think this crossed the line? And apparently they do have some sort of rules that you're not supposed to do it. So it was, open that it was a rules violation, and the lie is one thing. If he had even said, yeah, I did it, and I shouldn't have, and I broke the rules, but I'm trying to get an advantage. But to sit there and lie to that man in his face was just unbelievable. But for him to sit there and say, this is what's happened to America, and this was probably in 2010, I'm like, this guy cared about America. And he cared about the fact that we have lost our way. This being in 2010, and a young, guy that was, actually had a lot of potential and got hit hard by the recession. And this was a group of people that they were trying to help come back from the recession, that had lost their jobs and all that kind of stuff. And they sat there and cheated, number one, and lied, number two.
Okay, switching gears, what should we wear at the convention? All right.
You can wear a t-shirt and jeans. You can wear, some people wear a shirt and tie or business casual.
Star Wars.
You can wear Star Wars. There's some guy that dresses up as Abraham Lincoln every time out of Richland. Some guy, festive, patriotic, whatever you're comfortable. You will. What I'm saying is, you will see people all across the board.
Some of our people purchased the Greenville ReOrg black T-shirts. We still have them, and we'll have them on the bus. Again, not required. Some people are going to wear them. Some people will wear the ones from
Maybe the ones we had last time are red. Yeah.
So whatever you feel like, we will have the black T-shirts on the bus in case someone wants them. But again.
But really, whatever. I mean, yeah. I know that's a great question, but we don't really think about it.
If you're riding a bus, we have now, I think, 3 people that are bringing snacks, so we'll have food on the bus, and you can bring your own food and drinks. Once you get to the convention, they're not allowing any outside food at the convention center, but they will have concessions.
Of course.
I will. I'm not telling you whether you can or cannot, but I will.
But that's probably more of a facility issue.
They said, like we had a Greenville convention, the facility did not allow any outside food, and that's what SCGOP says, same policies with them.
So. Any other questions about convention? Thoughts, concerns? I mean, there may be developments on the floor, that type of stuff in regards to votes and all that stuff. I will tell you that Denny Floyd is the long-term treasurer out of the Anderson GOP. We've known Denny for a long time. He has announced he's running, and Denny is the gentleman that was nominated to run last year, got up, spoke essentially against Drew, and said, then withdrew his nomination, said vote for anybody but Drew. So he did a great job. He's not going to take his name back this time, so he's been working on it. And he actually did get Colonel Alan West to endorse him for SCGOP chair.
What happens if Drew doesn't show up?
He'll be there.
Just in case you get sick tonight or something like that.
Or you go to his house and flat his
I'm
tire.
not gonna do anything. So what happens if he doesn't show up?
I think he can still be elected. I mean, I think
Does he have to be present?
no, you do not have to be present. Now, one of our people that was on the delegates that was elected as a delegate was actually not at our county convention. It was on a cruise, but still elected and will be there tomorrow. But you don't have to be present. You have to be a member of the body. He would be a delegate to the state convention or an alternate, so he's a member of the body. By law, he's supposed to open the convention, but first vice chair will fill in for him. If he was deathly sick or something like that, you could still elect.
I just wanted to hypothetically know.
Yeah. but I'm pretty sure he'll be there.
Run against Drew.
Denny Floyd, who is the treasurer out of Anderson, is, and there may be one other person there, and there may be other people that get nominated from the floor or whatever. But I do think there's probably going to be one and or two people from our side, the American First side, that are out there to vote on. Some of that is still developing. So
Do we know who is running on our side?
well, that's what Denny Floyd is one of them, and there may be somebody else. So you know.
Jack Davis thinking about it.
Probably not. Preferably not. So it will be drastic if that comes. But you know, to me was a point of we needed a walk in there with 75%, and I probably would, yes. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not the guy that is going to get. You know, I'm about mission, right? So to me, with the mission is to get some people that are either in the middle, new, have to move over. Who's going to get those couple people, to move over to our side? That's the key, And I'm probably not the guy to move people over. And I'm happy to not be the guy that is going to say, "Oh, I was a rhino yesterday. Let me vote for Jeff Davis because he gave a great speech." So, we'll see about that. Yeah, it would be very strange if something happened that Jeff Davis was there. So, but even last year, I mean, think about 2 years ago. It was myself, Zoe Warren, and Tim Cox. Against the Drew, we came within 16 votes. But if we kept him under 50%, what we wanted to do, and what we had finally gotten agreement was for Curtis Loftus to step in on round 2 and be our person. Curtis, couldn't get him on round 1. We asked and kept going to Curtis and all that stuff. And we actually asked Curtis. I think we did ask Curtis early on in this process, but Curtis obviously knew all the BS that he's been going. I told somebody the other day, if you give me $1 million, I wouldn't ask Curtis to do it today. He doesn't deserve that. He's got to, I would love to. I'm asking, I'm saying, Curtis, why don't you run for governor instead of treasurer? I keep telling him that, but I wouldn't ask him to come into this hotbed of mess, but I think he would have been a very fair, good chairman of the SCGOP for the last 2 years, being able to work with all parties, because Curtis does talk to people on the other side. He comes from Lexington and all that stuff. I got no problem with that. I got the problem with somebody that only talks to the other side and treats us unfair and cheats and all that kind of stuff. So if we can find somebody that will treat us at least fairly, maybe it's somebody even stronger on our side. Denny Floyd, we've known for years. He's great. Even Denny is not sure he can pull those votes, but he's hoping he can touch people's heart and get them to understand. Maybe somebody else can step up. Then there's been discussions. So anybody can be nominated from the floor. It could be anything. We may walk in there and see, like the Greenville Commission, all the rhinos decided not to run, and maybe I'm just kidding. But I think the rhinos are going to show up. So that's what it is. So, but we will have, if it's somebody that can work with us, and isn't going to have our first executive committee. Let's make a motion to bar Jeff from coming to these meetings anymore. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And I tell you, on the podcast last night, and we're right on 1 o'clock, we were talking, and I'm going to go back to the article we wrote on Thursday, and I highly encourage you to go to myscgop.news and read it. As for elected officials, trust none of them, and especially the ones we like. Wow. Last night, one of the gentlemen was talking about the former state EC of Spartanburg, a lady by the name of Alexia Newman. She runs, I think, the Pregnancy Crisis Center or something. I don't know exactly what she's been. What does Alexia do?
That I don't know.
Okay, well, she's in the pro-life movement, more of what we would call the establishment pro-life movement, not kind of let's really push the envelope and say, babies, let's go on to get along. She's probably part of the groups that are pro-life that are now flooding out and endorsing Lindsey Graham, right? So she's part of that type of crowd. This individual said, "Oh, well, she called me after we won the elections, and she congratulated me and said if there's anything I can do, blah blah blah." super nice, complimenting her, saying that but I said, you realize she's one of the people that voted to, bar me from the meeting.
Wow.
Oh, that's, they act nice. They can be nice. We should treat them with respect and be kind and courteous. And we can't become what we are purging, but realize that these people will stab you in the back in about 2 seconds. They just will. Understand who they are. And to me, they have, Bob will finish with Bob and then we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Quick question, when's our next executive committee meeting?
The first one is by our rules in June. We could call a earlier one if we want. If we want to do what you're talking about, what I have suggested for here in Greenville, since we are a big county, it is probably, I hate to say an hour, but it's a long way for some people to get to the EC meetings. Southern part of the county, northern part of the county. I want the EC meetings to be more about business. I want them to be open, but we may actually do EC meetings via Zoom. And so if we've got things that we want to do from a resolutions or motion perspective, censure perspective, we may want to re-censure the people that voted for the tax increase so we can then bring some added focus back to the tax increase, as we did in flipping 4 of those county council seats. Last year, we may want to do that for the remaining 2 county council seats was Dan Tripp and Joey Russo. We may want to bring that up again. But if there's business, we can always call a special meeting and do that. But by our rules, it's not till the first Monday in June. And realize in the first Monday in June is when we will elect our remaining officers, the second, third, fourth, and fifth vice chair. We'll elect the treasurer, secretary, and then we have 4 standing committees where we'll elect 2 people to each of that. So we'll kind of let people know where all that flows out, and that's really what we do at the first meeting. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
We have a second, a fifth, sixth. All right. Thank you all. Thanks for watching, and we will see everybody at the convention tomorrow. Should be exciting. Let us know if you need any help. Bye.